Thank you for joining us. Over to you now.
So my name is Isilda, and I'm really excited to be here. And I cannot start without thanking Shellie, who's connecting with us from San Diego, California. It's what, 1 o'clock in the morning?
Two. Two.
So this is full commitment. So I will sort of to start quickly because I don't want to take away from Shelley's presence. No, this is not what I want to present. Now I need to kind of grapple with themes. Here it is what I want to present. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
Not in
So,
presentation, but is that what you want, Isilda? It's not in presentation mode.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay. Is it? Can you see it now? I'm sharing.
Yeah, we
You
can.
can see the screen, but it's not in presenter mode, if you know what I mean. It's not the full screen.
Oh, I
If you click in the top left from beginning,
left,
Top left.
top left from
top
beginning.
left.
Yeah, from beginning it says.
No, sorry.
Don't worry, don't worry. It's absolutely fine as it is.
Presenting teams. Maybe that's it. Yeah, present. That might be it. Is that it? I think that might be it.
Oh, there you go.
Ah, okay. Okay. So, everyone is a voice is the name of my our presentation, and it is very much about sort of all those hidden voices. So I'll sort of give an overview of the doctoral project and the research design, and kind of talk a bit about the iterative process of working with the different voices in the data that has led me to actually find my own blind spot, which where I am also a part of that community of women, in science and technology. And I had never, up until now, after working in museum sector for a long time, I had always thought of myself as somebody from the humanities who wouldn't be a scientist. I heard people talking about me as a scientist, and I don't recognize that yet. So this is a very interesting journey, and then the conversations of women who drone, of which Shelley is one. So, in terms of the research, my research topic is the use of drones to engage underserved audiences with heritage. That's how it evolved. It started with just drones for heritage, and then actually my great passion as a museum practitioner, as a heritage practitioner, is in making cultural experiences in institutions more accessible and inclusive at those who are underrepresented. And they're underrepresented because they're underserved. It's not because they're hard to reach. It's not because they're challenging. It's not because they're resistive, because all of these terms reflect the power dynamics between the dominant, the established power, and all of those that have been excluded. And women are a big part of that, particularly in the program that I'm doing my PhD under, which is Science and Engineering in Arts, Heritage, and Archaeology. So, to be really honest, I only engaged in this funded PhD program because I had been thinking about doing a PhD for a long time. And actually, I just needed to jump from being a practitioner in an institution and being institutionalized and constantly having to try to push forward for the use of technology for how we were engaging with communities to actually just have more power. So my PhD was part of a journey of having more power. And I thought, oh, drones are not for me, but heritage is absolutely what I'm interested in. So let's see how this goes. And I'm from the start, I'm in my fourth year, I'm in a completely different part of my journey. And that turn towards my point of arrival or intermediate point of arrival has been due to the conversations that I've had with people, particularly through Shelley. So the project, the PhD, is done in partnership with the National Trust and the South Downs National Park Authority, and they're my industry partners. And the research design, it has as guiding principles empowerment, agency, and working collaboratively with those communities that are underrepresented. So specifically in this research, I'm working with people living with dementia, particularly because after the pandemic, We all know how people in care homes were, after everyone was being able or starting to be able to come out and engage and experience, the people in care homes were still in a very difficult position of being limited in being able to do that. And that's, significantly affected and will affected, to in some circumstances, it meant that people were never able to see their relatives alive again because they passed away. But it has also meant, in terms of the people's only quality of life, that their quality of life will have deteriorated because they haven't been able to access and experience meaningful activities. So I was thinking about, how would I feel, as a woman who's had a career, when I get to that point where, I'm deemed to be in need of care support. How will I feel having lost my ability, my agency to engage the countryside, to access museums, and to feel valued, to feel that my experiences and memories are valued as, as a person from the global majority, as a woman, etc. So the research design sort of reflects that in terms of empowerment. And it started with desk research, and I can't see my screen very well, so I apologize if there is anything that I say that it's not quite on the slides. But basically, it started with the desk research, and then I went on to, based on that, doing heritage interviews with the heritage partners, so the members of staff from the organizations that are supporting the research. And those interviews informed then how I was going to shape the interviews with drone experts and an online survey more widely into the UK heritage organizations. The responses from both those sets of data then have informed how I was going to, which underrepresented communities I was going to be working with, as well as how that process would work. So it's an iterative process in that none of it is closed as a methodology. It is applied but informed by the results, the content, the sharings, and the analysis of the previous data, and it's shaped according to that. So I'm now at the stage of looking at how to work collaboratively with the focus groups. But before I got to that stage, I went to this conference of drones in society, where I listened to quite a few different women researchers talking about the use of drones, but in the context of warfare. And I thought, oh, as a PhD student, I should start to engage more with all of these people. So I'll sort of, they were really keen and sort of welcoming, and said, anyone who wants to contact us, that's fantastic. So I contacted them and had started conversations. And one of the conversations I had was with this feminist geographer and feminist geographer, Dr. Anna Jackman at University of Reading. And we were just talking about why the context of drones. And Dr. Jackman started talking about women who drone, and started talking about the need to decolonize the drone practice area itself. And I hadn't, I'm holding my hands up, being really vulnerable here, being an equity and diversity consultant, having worked in museums all this time, thinking about underrepresented and underserved communities. I have to confess that because I had this still quite detached, kind of probably quite heavy imposter syndrome, not thinking about myself as a woman technologist, as a woman scientist, I didn't actually think about how this was affecting my own data collection. So this was at the stage when I was doing the drone expert interviews, and I had done a whole call out, and I had interviewed up to then 4 people. They're all men. They're all of a certain demographic, so white, middle class. And I started thinking after the conversation with Anna, well, actually, this is not right, because I'm not applying the practice in terms of the, some of the data collection for the focus groups, where I was so determined that it would be inclusive in the sense of, how ethnically diverse are the people living with dementia? Am I going to be able to connect with LGBTQI groups, through switchboard of people living with dementia? How diverse are the people that I'm collecting the data from at the sort of end point and that I'm co-producing the experience with? But I hadn't thought, well, what about these issues of diversity in drone practice? What is this world I am navigating as a woman myself, at the forefront of that, and then a researcher, and then a drone pilot eventually, because I had even discounted that because I thought, I'm not very good, and I'll just leave that. I'll just research the people who do it, but I won't do it. So this discussion with Anna Jackman led to going online, finding Black drone pilots, and then on Black drone pilots, I saw this poster that you can see here at the end of the first line of 4. Somebody is doing a project using drones involving women and girls and focusing on, social mobility, drones for social mobility. I had never thought about that before. So I connected thinking, they'll be really busy. And I connected, I sent an email, and then I get an email, a really excited email from Shellie Baxter, the director of Our Genetic Legacy and founder. And so I think this is time for us to have a chat, Shellie, because in front of all these people, because actually these conversations we had been transformational for my research and for myself as well, how I see myself within it. So Shellie, could you just tell us all, how did you get onto creating the drone project? I'll stop sharing.
Hello, everyone. So yes, my name is Shellie, and as Isilda has said, I'm the founder and CEO of Our Genetic Legacy. And the way that we came to using drones was I was doing my own individual research, my family research for genealogy. I wanted to tell my kids, create a book. Here's who you are. Realizing the difficulties, started using DNA, and realizing another big issue is not knowing where our ancestors are buried is a major roadblock in trying to do that research. And then memorializing those lives, realizing that so many people were buried unnamed and in cemeteries and burial grounds that are, lost and abandoned. And so then I was thinking at that time I was thinking drones as a toy. I was going to go to Radio Shack, was kind of an electronic store, go pick one up, $100, $200. And that will allow me to map these areas so that I can create these online virtual memorials. Went to Alabama to do the beta test and realized there are a lot of trees in the way. And a lot of the spaces that I wanted to capture were lost beneath vegetation. So the drone can go overhead and get an image, but it's going to get an image of the top of the trees. So did some more research and discovered LiDAR enhanced drones. Well, that's a $60,000 drone. As a startup at that time who just barely bought my first drone, it took some time and some other programs that we started working on, and now here we are where it has been fully evolved. And it's DRONE stands for Descendants Recovering Our Names. It's a workforce development program for BIPOC teen girls. And they become licensed drone pilots and learn how to be digital historic preservationists. And so they will use the images that we capture of areas that are significant in history in San Diego for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. There's so much history of enslavement in California that is unknown because California is known as a free state. And so people don't connect the history to the people in that way. And so this is an opportunity for these youth to be able to share their perspective and to give them skills to restore some of the generational wealth that they have been robbed of in terms of the lack of access to these kind of advanced opportunities and these resources. And so when Isilda reached out to me, I was just so excited because at that time, I was starting to develop partnerships in Africa to take the project there next year, in addition to San Diego. And speaking with Isilda, I was like, wait a minute, we could do all three. We could do, California, Africa, going to Accra and Ghana, and coming to the UK, and really kind of get these girls' perspectives on documenting the effects of the transatlantic slave trade globally, because it has affected women in STEAM the same way, in every country. And that's a minority opinion that has been left out of the history books, a perspective, not just from the youth perspective, but also from women. And so this just became a really unique opportunity that just kind of organically grew into the project that it has become. And that's how I met Isilda, and with her excitement, because she was saying that she started her PhD in 2018. And it was in 2018 that I started forming this program. So from across the pond, we were doing, she was doing it from the education standpoint and the research, and then I was doing it from practice. And so it just turned out to be a really good partnership to where we are now, working to formalize some of the connections and partnerships in order to be able to make it a reality, to bring it to London at the end of this year.
Thank you, Shellie. And Shellie, could you perhaps, I think one of the things that I was really interested, we wanted just as a conversation, so just to kind of, so that you're not thinking that I'm just kind of, digressing from what we're meaning to do in this presentation. How do you feel the program might impact on girls and women's sort of agency and sense of power to, to navigate the future?
It's interesting because when you were talking about you don't have a science identity or, STEAM identity, neither do I. I'm also a genetic genealogist, so I used, analyzed DNA to reconnect to lost ancestral heritage, in addition to being a licensed drone pilot. But because they're my tools and not my driver, I don't identify with the science or the technology in that way, because my focus is telling the stories. So when we talk about agency and, reclamation of power, this is an opportunity for these girls they're the focus. The things that they're able to do in terms of the science and the technology are just the enhancements, but ultimately it's their voices and giving them a platform to share their opinions. And ultimately, we preserve the history for the next generation. So by including them in it at this stage, it kind of stops the lack of knowledge, because so many questions and information that we would want to get, but we don't understand the importance of it until it's too late. We didn't ask grandma these questions, or we didn't have certain conversations. So by engaging them at this level, they're understanding the importance of the preservation. So as they are collecting from the past, they are, stopping that trend and sharing information within their own families and having those questions and conversations to be able to illustrate their legacies as well. So I think it's just an opportunity for them to be seen, because we do all girls. And, there's some elements of the project that are different. Like we do a photo shoot because there's a lack of information. Okay, I see. About the girls, there's no clip art, there's no stock photos of, Black and brown girls with drones. So we had a huge photo shoot to, empower them as women, in addition, and affirm them in that way, in addition to the research. And so that's just been a really unique opportunity to be able to fully showcase the girls in all their aspects.
And I know that we only have perhaps 1 minute left, and I just wanted to also highlight that as a result of the conversations with Shellie, because of course I didn't have any representation of women in the, in my interview, my data collection in terms of drone experts. So I was able to interview some of the drone pilots in Shellie's project. And from those interviews, they were really transformational as well, because actually some of the things they were said in the interviews, such drones are a form of expression. And you can use drones, but you have to start with your story, find your story first, and then find how drones can help you, used as a tool to frame that story. And through these conversations, actually, I reconnected with my creative writing, and have subsequently applied for funding and got some funding to do some experimental work with writing our legacy, on using drones to write poetry and explore some specific sites with the National Trust, which was something that wasn't included in the research. So it has been really impactful to have this connection with somebody who, from across the pond, was also thinking about drones and underserved audiences, which I haven't found in any of the desk research that I have done. So it's fantastic to find your blind spot through conversations with all of these different women who, like you, share this space and are navigating and support you to do it better. So thank you so much, Shellie.
Thank you. It's been an honor. I'm super excited, we debuted the museum in July. The girls did their first LiDAR mission a few weeks ago. The majority of them have gained their pilot's license. So we're just really excited for the future and, what we're going to be able to do next year in bringing it, to the UK and just continue to expand the conversations and the way that history is being recorded and preserved to include these voices and to empower these girls.
So does anyone have any questions, any reflections?
Thank you so much, both.
Yeah.
It's been exciting just listening to your conversation, and I feel like it's almost like a marriage made in heaven. Found your perfect partner for your research. I have this question, and I think I should just throw it out there, and any other person in the room has a question. And please, feel free to ignore or just answer as you please. Talking about drones, when I think about drones, I think about it synonymously with access, and just like what you've been talking about. I had a stint some times ago at a site of specific scientific interest, locally here in Bournemouth. And one of the things that we had to monitor was, accessing, especially for drones. And I think why we needed to do that was because ethically it wasn't something that we should allow. So just throwing out there, what can you say about ethics in terms of access in the use of drones, and how in your work are you able to manage that, if that makes sense?
Is that for Shellie, for us both, or just
I think any one of you really can answer. I think it's
You can start, Isilda, and then I'll go.
Okay, yeah. So in my research, because I'm working specifically with these industry partners, the National Trust, who have a no drone policy, and the South Downs National Park, who are tentatively trying to see how they can bring forward a drone policy that is positive, where people are able to use drones responsibly. So because I'm working in partnership with them, I have been discussing, how the project, the research, where I'm going with it, and they are very excited because they are thinking about this as an opportunity to test new models of using drone technology in a way that is positive, and that particularly with the National Trust, that doesn't affect all of their stakeholders, because they have, tenants in their properties, they have landowners, they have a no drone policy nationally themselves. So so that's as part of the sort of ethical application process. I have included the drone, I have been able to work with the drone pilot who is actually very experienced in working with both organizations. So they have that level of confidence. This person knows how we work, how we operate, and what we do. And I have discussed with them the process, but it is a co-production process. So I don't know what landmarks the groups I'm going to be working with are going to choose. But equally, these are organizations that have a research policy. So they view research as an opportunity to test some boundaries in a way that they can, where they're involved in what that is, so they can shape that up. So it has been a little bit easier than if I was doing it without any partners at all.
Thank you so much.
Shellie, did you have any?
Back on that, to talk about the ethics, and when we're talking about no drone policies, a lot of that, it comes about as a result of the irresponsible use of drones. You don't have to have a license to buy the drone. And many people don't understand the power of, like, I first thought of it as a toy. And doing my research, I realized about the licensing and, just the different things that I needed to do. And because I was doing it from an organizational standpoint, I was very systematic in making sure that I followed all the laws and that I became licensed, and I did it that way. And so I think a lot of the no drone policies come about because people don't understand the risk that the drone can impose. It can bring down a plane if not, operated properly. And so I think that's a lot of where the policies need to make adjustments for those who are licensed to, have an understanding of airspace, who follow the rules, and, to have a system in place to be able to allow for drones. And so I also think when being done for research, it gives an opportunity, as Isilda was saying, to do it on a case-by-case basis where it's, specific to this research project, because that also enhances the value of the space by being able to share it with others and to be able to research it from additional angles that only the drone can provide in that way. So that's what I'm hoping, we'll be able to create those and start creating new conversation for those who are licensed and pathways for them to be able to use them responsibly.
Thank you, Shellie. Any other questions?
No, not a question.
Yeah, yes, sorry, can he go first? Then?
I'm an electronic engineer, and in our school, some colleagues are doing research on various aspects of drones. My question is, obviously, drones are very complex electronics and mechanical systems. When you purchase drone, do you train your own people, or how do you train yourself, or is it that you hire a company and give your problem to them and they make pictures and then obviously analyze it? What is the situation?
So for us, what we do is we're doing it in partnership. And so because there are so many historic sites that we know we're, just not just within the US, which was when we first started, but now we're going global, that we had to figure out a way to train our own workforce. And so that's what the program does. So we partner with other agencies, now other corporations, small businesses, with women of color, particularly in the drone industry, so that our girls are learning from others who look like them and have an understanding who they are culturally and heritage-wise, to be able to help overcome some of these barriers. But ultimately, the goal is that the girls will then graduate to become the trainers. And it also gives them access to high-paying careers and being able to work for us on an independent contractor basis. So it fulfills two missions in that, because we are creating partnerships with corporations in order to be able to go into those higher paying jobs. Because as a nonprofit, we would not be able to employ enough of them at the salary range that we are training them to be able to do. So this is a way for us to have a twofer. So where so much about drones is talking about, warfare and different uses for that. And so this is an opportunity for these girls to be able to both work in those commercial industries that are higher paying, but also to feed their soul and to do that work through our genetic legacy with the Drone Project.